This is Justin.
And this is Haley, and you're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize conversations about money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom.
All right, you guys, today Haley and I are sitting down with Sarah VanHoose. She is Journey to Influence on Instagram. Sarah, thank you so much for taking some time on a Sunday afternoon to sit and chat with us.
I'm so excited to have the conversation.
This is a long time coming. We had this scheduled. I don't even know what caused the reschedule, but we had this scheduled late last season, and I believe it was that we just put our house on the market. And
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it didn't get done, so it got pushed to season 2, and here we are, and I'm really excited for this. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember when you guys had first kind of chatted about it, and you kind of talked about some things that you could come on and have a cool discussion about, and they were all super interesting. And then it seemed like months went by, and Haley was like, "Hey, by the way, we've got that interview scheduled again." And it's like, all right, sweet.
Yep.
It's exciting.
So today we're talking all about talking with your children or children that aren't yours, I guess, about money. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited because obviously, well, I guess not obviously, maybe people are brand new here, but Justin and I are both teachers. So, we work with kids in a classroom setting, and then we have 2 children, our own children, but they're young, so we haven't really even talked about money with them, obviously, because they don't even talk. But I think a lot of our listeners will definitely resonate with this topic for sure, because they all have kids or they're going to have children soon.
Sure. Yeah, I have a couple of my own. So 2 children, my 2 daughters. My oldest daughter is 11, and my youngest daughter is 8. And I'm what they'd call a geriatric millennial.
Yeah.
So I turned 40 this year, so I still fit into the millennial category. But I'm on the seasoned end of that. So my kids are a little bit older, and I have had these conversations. So feel really comfortable in at least getting the conversation started as to the age that they are now, and then kind of we'll navigate it together, right, as they continue to get older.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that a lot of people that have young children, at least that are listeners of ours, want to have those conversations and maybe
Right.
don't quite know how. So it's going to be really cool to kind of share some ideas and some thoughts with them. Sarah, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your finance journey and what's led you to where you are today.
Sure. Well, similar to you guys, my husband and I had, not totally similar. I just listened to my 600K episode just
Nice.
really recently.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we had a lot of debt, different debt than yours, but we had $700,000 in debt, including a couple of different mortgages, and kind of stumbled across Dave Ramsey, understood the simplicity, right, of that money management philosophy and adopted it for ourselves. And we had a lot of success. We got out of debt, moved forward to establishing our emergency fund and really building wealth, and wanted to share that with everybody that would listen. We didn't
Yeah.
start a podcast, but we wanted everybody to be like, hey, yeah, you don't have to do the thing that you did forever and not know what, how to get out of debt. So that's kind of what started our financial journey, was feeling the weight of having a whole bunch of debt that we really had never counted it that same way before. We really just hadn't done the math that way. And then ultimately got out of debt, still doing the same thing, right, career-wise for myself. My husband's an entrepreneur. And at some point, I really wanted to hang out more with my kids. They were
Yeah.
starting to get a little bit older, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do the same job thing all the time. And now that we have more financial freedom, how about we do something different? I attempted to get my husband to move to Mexico with me. That didn't work. But ultimately, he said, what you really want is to have more flexibility and freedom. So why don't you figure that out? So that's when I married my love for personal finance and kind of my background in strategy and operations, and decided to become a coach. So I've been coaching for almost 2 years. So just like Haley does, I help people with their personal finances. I also support some small businesses, and then also help coaches on coaching as well.
I just want to say, if anyone's interested in becoming a financial coach, you should reach out to Sarah, because I took, what would you call what I did with you? Because it wasn't really like a course. What would you call
Yeah.
it?
I would call it an intensive. We did kind of a group coaching intensive that we called it,
Yeah.
yeah, Start Strong Intensive to give you. It's really more the business side, right? And some of the structures around coaching to kind of get your confidence boosted so you can get out and really start coaching well right out of the gate.
It was phenomenal. And you guys did such a great job putting that together. And I'm taking Financial Coach Academy. And what I learned from you guys, I haven't been able to find anywhere else. So
Oh, thank you for saying that.
anyone who's interested in becoming a financial coach needs to definitely reach out to you. I'm going to make sure that I put all of your links in the show notes for people
Awesome.
as well.
I like that. So if I could ask, how old were your daughters when you guys like started to get out of debt?
Yeah, like the actual moment, that I like added up the debt, we had moved into the house that we live in now. It was the third mortgage that we had in that moment. So
Wow.
unpacking boxes, my oldest daughter was almost, she was 3.5, I guess, and my youngest daughter was crawling. So she's like 9 months old, not even a year old.
Wow. So almost like close to us, like with young babies, like trying to navigate getting out of debt to like set them up for a better future.
Yeah.
That's ooh.
Making
Yeah, you're definitely in
moves.
solidarity with us. I
Yeah.
can I can feel you on that for sure.
So someone listening might be like, why the heck would someone have three mortgages? Do you have rentals?
We did. Yeah. So we had moved around a lot for my job at the time. I had gotten promotions, all in Oregon. I'm a Pacific Northwest native. But it was far enough that, we moved and relocated, and the housing market was such that we couldn't sell. Just we would have sold at a loss. So we ended up turning those homes that we lived in into rental properties, but they weren't really great rental properties. They were single family homes that in a market that was just not very conducive. So they made their mortgage payment, like they did what their job. But we realized with that whole $700,000 in debt that we had, like, if anybody stopped paying their rent, for like more than a month or whatever, we were going to be screwed. Like, we
Yeah.
only had so much in savings, and it was not enough to sustain our lifestyle, including those three mortgages, for more than a month.
Yeah, you get super worried that it's maybe out leveraged or one bad thing happens to a house and you're
Yep.
spending a lot of, extra dough on something and it really starts to get scary and
Yeah.
eat into any type of benefit of rental,
Yeah.
real estate investing.
Yeah, it got scary for sure. And so, part of our debt journey, similar to your guys's, is that we sold two of those mortgages. Um, yeah, we sold some stuff, in order to help our situation get better. It's
Yeah.
not cheating, and it absolutely helps the bottom line. But also, we just did the hard work of like getting on a budget for real, sticking to it, stop looking at what everybody else is doing and start focusing on what we needed to do for our kids. It was no longer about what everybody else was doing or what they were driving. It really became about like what we wanted for our future.
Oh man, that resonates hardcore.
Yeah, I feel that one for sure. Absolutely. So obviously, we're super excited that you had tossed out the idea of talking about kids and money, especially as two young parents. And like we said earlier in the episode, with listeners who have young kids as well, and I'm sure want to have these conversations in an effective way. So how did you guys bring up this money talk with your kiddos? Obviously, when you got out of debt, they're probably too young for that conversation. But now as they're, older, how do you guys talk about money in the household?
We really talk about it very openly. So that's the number one thing that I would take away. Don't wait until they go to bed to have a conversation about money or to talk about your budget. Have a conversation about money. Like, let them be hearing it now. I think one of the most important pieces is that kids need to understand that money is earned. So when my husband is working in the office, like the kids know, like, okay, so that dad's doing that for his job. And then people pay him for the job that he's doing. And that's how we pay our other bills. So as simplistically as you can make it, depending on their age, like we work for money, right? So we have to start correlating the work into money. You have to explain banking on some level to them. Like when we go to the ATM, it's not this magical machine that spits out money. Like we actually, like, we sent some of our money to the bank and they're holding it there for us, in the ATM before we get it out. It's not super magical. That is our money, right? That is in the bank. But like those things, because they're watching you. Kids are watching you in the grocery store. They're watching you when you're online. They're watching when things show up on the doorstep. Help them put two and two together around where those things came from and the fact that they're part of the work that you did in order to do that. So that's part of that conversation, is just helping them correlate work with money. And then
I
yeah, go ahead.
I just think I think that's huge, correlating the work with money, because I think that supports like a strong work ethic too. Not
Right.
even
Yeah.
just like a relationship with money, but just understanding like if I work hard, these are some things that can happen.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then the next piece that we really started to do with our kids was to give them age appropriate chores. And it doesn't have to be really it doesn't have to be a lot of chores. It could be a thing or two that they do. But we started paying our kids for the chores that they did. Now my kids are old enough that they do the dishes. Like, whoop, whoop, like this is
Ooh.
a huge, yeah, this is huge.
That's nice.
So they get paid every time that they complete their chore. So when they were little, 3, 4 years old, we paid them on the spot. You go do whatever the task was, like, all right, here's your 50 cents. Go put it away in your piggy bank. So that, again, they correlated the work with the money. That's how you earn it. Now that our kids are a little bit older, we pay out on Sunday. Sunday is payday in their house. We have a chore chart. If they did the task, then they mark it up. If they didn't do it, they don't get paid for that task. So it's not an allowance, right? Allowance versus, it's more commission based, where you get paid based off of what you do.
I love that.
Can they get more money for doing certain things? Like, is washing a car worth more than putting away your laundry?
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And depending on how eager they are, to earn, they will come and ask, like, do you have any extra chores that I can do? So they'll ask, and I'll give them, the really, really stuff that I don't want to do, like,
Yeah.
yeah, sign it out. Here you go. You want to earn some money? Yep. That's
What's the going rate for these tasks?
Yeah. So at home, unloading the dishwasher is worth 50 cents. Loading the dishwasher is worth 75 cents.
Uh-huh.
Sweeping is worth 25 cents. Let's see, getting the mail is worth 25 cents. Yeah, washing the car is worth $5.
Yeah, that's work.
It's a big one. Yeah. And my older daughter is actually pretty skilled in the kitchen. She will do she'll make some, like, I've got this really great recipe for protein balls, and I was like, would you make me a batch of protein balls? It's worth $1. Pretty much anything in the kitchen is going to be worth $1.
Okay, I
Oh.
have to pause and ask, what's the recipe? Do you know it off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's whey protein and oats, a little bit of almond milk, chia seeds, PB2, powdered peanut butter, and if I'm feeling fancy, some mini chocolate chips.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, so a standard in our home is like protein balls with not any powdered protein, but just peanut butter, shredded coconut, honey, chocolate chip, and oats. And so I'm always looking for like other recipes that are like tried and true for protein balls. Because
Yeah.
like right around the end of the day teaching, like 3 o'clock, I'm like, I just need something to hold me over till dinner, and I don't want something crazy. Okay, I'm glad to know that. Well, I'm gonna make sure Haley hits you up to get
Yep.
the exact recipe on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry to like totally freaking shoot that off in the
Yeah.
corner, but I heard protein balls, and that's important to me.
Well, I have to ask, what do your kids do with the money? Do you require that they have money that is set aside for savings? Do you require that they give or donate some of their money? How is it in your family?
Again, like, age dependent. Like, we just let them spend it until they kind of got to the age that they understood a little bit more about giving and saving. So it was probably 7 or 8 that they really started doing, like, the 3 envelopes. So we have giving, savings, and spending. So they take about 10%, give or take, and set aside for giving, and then they half the rest of it, half into spending, half into savings. With giving, we really let them choose whatever's on their heart. Like, my youngest daughter is really into pets and animals, so she likes to donate her money to local animal shelter. My oldest daughter has a very sensitive heart and likes to donate to a homeless project. So really, it's like, we don't make them give to the church or anything. Like, it's whatever that is important to them. Again, I think that this is a really important lesson for kids, is that they need to understand that the world is bigger than just them.
Yeah.
And there are people, there are things that need our support, and let's be honest, we are all in a really good position regardless of what your situation is.
I think that's super important. As somebody who teaches sixth graders and teaches them history and current events, I try and show them that like we're global citizens. It's so much bigger than just us, and that's an important conversation to have in the house as well. I think
Absolutely.
it's necessary. So, can I ask what's been maybe a hard conversation you've had with your kids about money, or and how I guess how you might recommend somebody else navigates that?
Yeah, I think so many people are hesitant to talk about salaries or bank accounts or like the things that we don't want to talk about, as adults either, right? It's not necessarily glowing. Our kids think that we are, for the most part, right, that we move heaven and earth. Like we are super special in their eyes. So to see or to hear us do something that's less glamorous or to have made mistakes, that's hard as a parent to showcase to your children. But again, like this, talk about global citizens and like humanity overall. We need them to understand that mistakes are going to happen. They're going to make mistakes. We've made mistakes, but here, let me help guide you, through to something different. So again, like transparency, we've talked to them about having sold some of my oldest daughter remembers, living in our other house. We've talked about why we sold it. We haven't run into too many difficult conversations at this point. I imagine it will continue to get a little bit more challenging as they get older. But really, they are, they're confined to kind of what they earn. So their world is small, when it comes to money still. Um,
Do you have any suggestions for families that are coming from a really, really tight situation? We could say low income, we could say someone like seriously with an income problem where they're living paycheck to paycheck. How would you recommend they have these conversations, or do you think it's the same approach?
I think it's the same approach. I think we need to be transparent, but we also need to make sure that our kid, money's a tool, and it doesn't. The amount that we have in our checking account does not equate to your value. So
That's a
if
good
you've got,
message.
yeah, if you got lots in your bank account, right, um, it's not a bragging point, So we're careful about. Like when we go on vacation or take family vacation, like this is not a bragging point, right? But we've worked hard, right, to do these things. Again, we're tying it back to work. But if you have less in your bank account, that doesn't value less as a parent, that doesn't value less as an individual. You still have some work to do, right? Maybe you're going to work on growing your income, right? Reducing your debt. You can still teach your kids those basic principles around work and money management as you're going through it.
Love that.
Yeah, I think that's a hard one for me personally. Like I was raised by a single mom, and we were relatively low income, and I was aware of it, right? And like I slowly as I've gotten older and like started to understand finances more, I start to kind of like unpack some of those feelings that I have. And I kind of think to myself, like, nobody in my school like ever really said anything to me. Like I was in just a community itself that just didn't have a ton of wealth in it. So it's not like I ever saw stuff and was like, oh geez, and then that person, made me feel some type of way. But I think as kids, we do develop these ways of like internalizing it. And I don't know if I didn't quite internalize it as much, maybe because my mom was more transparent about stuff. I kind of wonder that, as I get older, I begin to think about it more. But back then, it didn't really ever stand out to me
Right.
that we were,
Because that was your normal.
it was kind of my normal, yeah. And I certainly had more than others as well. Like we had a ton of folks who helped us, and my mom worked her tail off to provide for us as best she could. But yeah, it just I don't know. It's just interesting to me the talks around like low income earners and like how we can still support our kiddos and kind of climb out of that. And I'm sure you've seen that as a coach, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
just said, you try and help somebody understand like, okay, am I reducing debt? Am I trying to get my money up? Like what do I need to do to get out of this? I'm sure you've seen and even maybe had to coach somebody through those difficult talks with their family.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the questions that I always ask when I start coaching is about how people grew up with money. Everybody has a story about how they grew up with money, and it has, whether they realize it or not, sometimes it's in that conversation that they realize that has impacted them into adulthood. You're either picking up some of those same habits that your parents did because you didn't know any better or any different, or you're often rebelling against it. Maybe they did something, they were super strict with their money. And so you're like, you went hog wild, right? Because you wanted to rebel against that. Or maybe they did something, they had really bad habits with their money. You watch that, as a child, and then again, you like want to rebel against that and do better with your money. But we all have a story that's connected to our childhood that where we have feelings associated with money.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, yeah.
I think just even with like coming up on the holiday season and stuff, like just I think everybody has a story of like, oh wow, that that was a moment. And as they get older, they start to unpack that and like, oh, okay, that definitely shaped just about every single interaction I have with money.
Yeah. And it's not like a bad thing. It's not like our parents did some horrible thing to us
Right.
if they didn't give you financial literacy. But that impacts you deeply for the rest of your life. And like you said, you'll either go do exactly what they did because you know nothing else, or you try to go completely the other way.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is like an appropriate age to really start this conversation? Or is it like something that happens, or you just recommend people talk about money all the time?
I think, well, not all the time, right? It's a part of as part of our career path now. Like it does happen a little bit more often, probably at home, but I just don't hide it. Don't wait until the kids go to bed. Don't just do it, via email or text message or whatever. Like make sure that you're doing it kind of openly. It's your family business. As we have goals, my husband and I have goals around our finances. We have a chart that is in the middle of our kitchen that is on our bulletin board that has our current money goal. My kids help, draw it in with the chalk, when we're adding more money to it. When we use cash envelopes for discretionary spending, my kids shove the money into the envelopes. They're counting, they're doing, my youngest loves that part, so she always thinks it's so fancy, right? All the big bills, that you shove in there. And then we get this conversation about like, yeah, we actually spend that much money in groceries. Can you believe it? Like there starts to be some realization between how much things cost and what we're spending on them as they have an interactive part of that. So just as they are old enough, just let them try it out, let them shove money into the envelopes, let them color on it and ask questions about what's going on with your goals.
And then when your kid comes home and they didn't eat their lunch and they threw it away, you can say that was $4.
Right.
And then they'll actually know what it means.
Yeah. There's a saying too. I think it's actually even Rachel Cruz that says it like share, don't scare, right? And so you just tell them age appropriate. And I think as parents, we all kind of grasp slowly like what is age appropriate for my child right now. You share age appropriate information or things that they can do, such as counting and stuffing. You may not be like, hey, come check out this spreadsheet. We're going to input all this stuff, right? You might be like, okay, that's too much. But, sitting down at the table and saying, okay, we need to put $20 in this envelope. Can you try and do that for me? Like there's definitely things you can do, I think, at even different ages. And then think of the benefits of when a kid, at least for me, I think of, getting their first job at 16 and they've had maybe not just a year or two of like some talks with their parents, but since they were 8, of what does personal finance really look like. That's just, I'm really excited for those moments because I'm excited to see our kids be better off than us.
Yeah, me too. I like the idea. I know exactly what chalkboard you're talking about, so I really like that idea. She's posted it on her Instagram many times, but it's a chalk wall. It's like goals and stuff. So I like that. It's a visual, and then the kids can interact with it, and it's chalk. It's not marker, so it's not going to make too much of a mess, except for on your black pants or something.
Those can get in the wash, though. That's okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So we do have the holidays coming up. What are some ways that you guys have open conversations with the kids during that season? Because that's such an important season when it comes to being transparent. There's so much money being spent. So what are your recommendations for this time of year, really?
Yes. Probably my favorite time of the year, right? The holidays, November, December, all the good things. This year, we're actually for several years, we have done like adopted a family for Christmas from one of our local shelters. So the kids get to help us purchase gifts. There's usually, we try to pick a child that is a little girl that is their age or close to their age. So they get to pick age appropriate toys. They pick out clothes that they think that she might like. So again, like that whole process of the world is bigger than just our city or our county or our household, or bigger than you. It's important for that giving back. And this year we're actually doing an advent calendar, a gratitude advent calendar. We're going to have it's going to be an act of kindness per day that we're doing as we count down towards Christmas. Something simple that the kids can get involved. It's for grown-ups, but the kids can get involved with as well. So something like, buy the person behind you their peppermint white chocolate mocha, when you buy yours, and then go leave a note, somewhere on somebody's windshield, just telling them to have a great day. And, go sweep somebody's sidewalk, or, shovel the snow. So really simple acts that I want them to get involved with as we gear into the holiday season. I feel like Thanksgiving doesn't really get very much time and space. And I just feel like the time for gratitude and Thanksgiving, those things help us be better money managers when we can practice more gratitude in our lives.
That I feel so much. I don't know how it was for you guys through your debt journey, but it felt like every step of the way, the more that we gave, even during our debt journey, the more it was returned to us in certain ways.
Absolutely.
And we would have so many late night conversations where like, why is this lining up like this? Why does it seem like everything is falling in place, even when we're, at like trying to scratch and claw and fight our way out of this debt? It felt like once we got on the right track, it was just constantly being returned back to us. And I think giving and gratitude was a huge part of that.
Yeah. And again, let's teach our kids let's have them be just have it an exercise. Let's see what I'm trying to say. A muscle that gets exercised now in their youth. So it's something that is just like old hat to them as teens and as young adults.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've liked to go and grab, like a tree off of, the tree at the store, or, a placard off the store, and get something for a family. And I know that my family benefited from that when I was younger, and did that as my mom started to get into having more money and stuff. And so you're right. Like now I enjoy doing that. And I think because not only I benefited from it, but then I saw my family do it when we could. Like, it's just, yeah, I firmly agree with stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this book that I'm reading, I've heard this many times before, but it's in this book that I'm reading, You Are a Badass at Making Money. And it just says, when people make more money, when people have money, it just amplifies whoever you are as a person. If you are a mean person, you'll just be a mean person with money. But if you're generous, then you can be so generous once you have some money. So if you could teach kids, like at a young age, that about giving a little bit, like imagine how much they'll give when they have a lot of it, when they're older.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. I love that.
Especially if they have, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just going to say that we do something a little like unusual for Christmas gifting as well. So definitely the gratitude, but I want to tell you guys about this crazy thing that we do. We don't buy our kids Christmas gifts.
Okay. Explain more, because I'm kind of intrigued.
So, their grandparents buy them Christmas gifts. Their aunts and uncles buy them Christmas gifts. There's no lack of gift or toy or item, right, in our house. So a few years ago, my husband and I started doing calendar adventures. So each year for Christmas, our family gets a printout calendar of pictures, one for each month, of adventures that we're going to go on, or experiences that we're going to have together. So we stopped buying our kids Christmas gifts, and instead we do, it's, like Shutterfly, like quick little calendar, Costco calendar that has a picture of something that we're going to do. And then each month we have quality time, right, as a family, diving into what that looks like for us.
Oh my gosh.
Give us an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything from the pumpkin patch, and we have learned a few things over the years. You never pick a date. You never put yourself into a corner with a particular date. And COVID really taught us that you have to be flexible with your plan. Last year we had train tracks were part of the image for what we were going to do. And our original plan was to take the train up to Seattle and go to a Mariners game. well, there were no Mariners games that we could actually go to. So we ended up going to this park that had some train track, like there were train tracks associated with it, but it was not the original plan. But like the pumpkin patch is something that we're doing this month. We're doing a Christmas tree lighting in December. We've done things like our favorite things are taking the girls on one-on-one dates. So each parent takes a kid and then we go find something to do. And then, later on, a couple of months later, we swap kids and activities. So anything from like roller skating to just having a girls' night. My oldest daughter and I like watched rom-coms, and like ate pizza delivery. It was, one of her favorite days.
Oh my gosh, this sounds so fun.
I know,
I'm
that's
gonna borrow
awesome.
all these ideas from you.
Do it.
Yeah,
Do
I
it.
can't wait till we have like solo dates and I just get to like take the girls out. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
gonna be really
great
fun.
way to find it. I'd hit on you if you had
Well.
2 girls.
Thanks.
I'd be like, hey, that's a hot dad over there.
Thanks.
Sarah, your advent calendar, is there like an example or something that you could share with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a free download to help you plan your calendar adventure for your kids.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you can fit in your budget. You can kind of give you some ideas on where to look for free activities, kind of how much you want to spend. You can tailor it to make your own calendar adventures out on my website, myjourneytoinfluence.com.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm going to put all of this in the show notes so people, if you're driving, do not like use your phone right now. I listened to a podcast the other day and it was great. And I'm like, yes. And then they told me to pause and take some notes. And I'm like, no, I'm driving. Like I cannot do this right now. So I had to pause it and then I will revisit it when I'm ready to be serious.
Good. Okay, so Sarah, I have to ask because as we got moved up here, Haley was working through your intensive and through being pregnant and the move and all this stuff. It was so much, but now she's like really flourishing as a coach. And it's really cool as her husband to see. And it's really cool to see her growth and the success of her clients. And like she said, I think that having, a supportive coach who's coaching coaches, for lack of better words to make that not so coach heavy, has really been beneficial. So I just kind of want to ask, what got you interested in coaching coaches rather than just continuing on your path as a financial coach?
Oh, yeah. I struggled as an early financial coach. It was the beginning of 2020. And, there's a lot of things going on in the world. And it took me a long time to get my first clients and then kind of get up and running. So I learned a lot. I stumbled a lot. And I knew that there were other people that were in that same position as I was, as trying to get their foot underneath them. And so many people quit. So many people did not have the tenacity and the grit to like just hang on tight to what they were doing. So with the lessons that I learned with my background and kind of operations, I was able to kind of take some of those things and put it together in a package to help people get successful, right out of the gate, because there are plenty of people for Haley and me and, 20,000 other financial coaches to help. I'm not worried that I'm going to run out of work to do. We need lots of people to help do personal finance coaching. So I wanted to help people get out there sooner and not quit.
We've had a lot of financial coaches on our podcast, and I always wonder if people might think that that's kind of weird. Not like I care, but it's not taking away from anything.
No.
We're all in different parts of the world, and we need financial coaches.
Yeah.
Because your ideal client is not my ideal client. And someone who wants to work with me might not want to work with you. It's just, we're all different in such cool ways.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the big point is just celebrating the fact that, at least obviously you're my wife, so I know this about you, and having a conversation with you now, I can kind of assume this, that like, the general goal is just for others to live abundantly and be okay and better off. And so if that's the goal and everybody's in that goal, why would you not be like, hey, I want to help the next few coaches like get their business started off on the right foot and like set things up in a appropriate system so that they can manage all of this and actually help people. And it doesn't, may not pull from my clientele, or, even if it does, okay, there's one more person in the world who might be a little bit better off. I just think that's awesome. And I know that was a worry of Haley's, was like, I don't even know like how to start this business. I don't really know what to do. Like, yeah, I like to talk to money with my husband, but like, how do I coach somebody else to do this stuff, you
Yeah.
know? And so it was really cool seeing her grow to where the point was like, okay, dude, like now it's time to rock, and you're rocking.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I rock because Sarah helped me out a lot. Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, yeah, but you took your own experience. Like just like Justin said, we all have our own individual experiences that help shape us into the coaches that we are. And we're all different, a little different flavor. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I love what
exactly.
you're providing to your listeners
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you were able to come on to our podcast today.
too.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. No worries. Okay, so Sarah, we have a famous last question that I'm going to actually kind of change a little bit just because you're a financial coach. And there's probably so many things where you can be like, oh, it's so personal, like what I would tell somebody to not do because it's based off of all of their habits and the things they've done in their life. So I'd rather just ask you if there was like one major piece of advice that you could give to younger millennial parents who are like, how do I even start this conversation with kids about money? What would be the number one thing? What's the big ticket item that you'd be like, oh, please, please, please do this?
Yeah. I would say watch your language around money talk. And I don't mean your foul language. I mean make sure that this is the statement that I hate. We can't afford it, or it's not in our budget. Even that is better than we can't afford it, but switch the dialogue and say, we have different goals right now. Whatever, insert goal, right? We're trying to do X, Y, and Z, or we're saving up for a vacation. Instead of making the whole money conversation negative, we can't afford it. You can afford it. You're just choosing something different. You know, you're choosing to pay your mortgage. You're choosing to pay off your debt. You're choosing something different. It's a negative connotation right around money. And even it's not in the budget. Yeah, that might be factual. It's not in the budget right now, but instead, like, let's reframe it to something positive and say, you know, our goal this year is to be able to do X, Y, Z. So that's what we're working towards.
I think
Wow.
that's awesome.
I want to like sound clip that and put it everywhere.
I want to like tattoo that on me so I remember it. It's like when our kid asks for something and I'm like, it's not in we've created goals, honey, and we're working really hard towards those goals. I mean, I just think that's huge. There's a lot of psychology behind a positive mindset and even just positive language around the things you do versus a negative mindset. And I think that is massive. Like that active voice in all of it is huge.
Okay, I think you win my favorite. That was not a stop sign, but my favorite famous last question answer.
Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that might be up there for mine as well.
Wow. Yeah, that was really good. Can we ask her a stop sign too?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So I want to ask you the actual question because
Yeah, she's batting 1 for 1.
I know.
You're hitting it out of the park already, so we're setting you up here.
if you could put a stop sign in front of anyone on their financial journey, what would you stop them from doing?
Looking around them. You know, I think it's paying attention to what everybody else is doing. I would say just stay on your path. Like, you know what you need to do. But if you're on this journey, right? If you're listening to this podcast, you have some key foundational elements of what you need to be doing. Stop scrolling your feed. Stop, you know, staring at the new car that's in your neighbor's driveway. Like, just stay the course.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, we oftentimes get people who say like, don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. But I think that again is you said it in active voice. Like, stay on your journey. Like, stay on your path. Don't like yeah, that's I think that's always the most important. It's like lifestyle inflation creeps up. I mean, listen to our story.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's mainly what it was. Yeah, we were bad with managing money, but we also thought that all of these things said something about us and our value in life.
Right.
And it had nothing to do with our value.
We weren't bad. I'm going to take a positive spin on that. We weren't bad with handling our money. We didn't know how to handle
There
our
you go.
money.
True.
Like, we didn't have the education.
Yeah,
Like, that wasn't our fault.
for sure.
And now we do.
Look
And
at
we're
us
going to go change the next generation, right? You know,
Yes.
through
It's the
coaching
goal.
and the kids, right, that are all part of that. Like, we're going to change the next generation on how they handle money.
That's
the goal.
powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I'm so excited that we had this conversation. It's a really important one, and I think that it's definitely going to resonate with a lot of our listeners.
Yeah, and especially for us as young parents who are constantly having that conversation now, like, well, what would we do about this? What would we do about chores? What would that look like for the kids? How do we feel about like giving and money with kiddos and stuff? Like, it's just, it really helps hearing somebody say, like, hey, there's some things we've done that have been successful, and these are some things that we're going to continue to do, or, continue to have conversations about. Because that's something obviously we don't want, right? Is we don't want to be like, hey, we're crushing it with money. And then like 20 years from now, our kids are like, by the way, you guys put in like every toxic money habit into my brain because I listen to you guys all day long.
All day long.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
Sarah, so where can people find you? Because I want them to go connect with you ASAP.
ASAP. Journey to Influence. I have the most fun over there on Instagram at Journey to Influence, and then my website has lots of goodies on it. It has that calendar adventure freebie. It's myjourneytoinfluence.com.
myjourneytoinfluence.com. You got it. I'm gonna put all of that in the show notes for you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sarah. We won't take up too much more of your time, but we appreciate you so much, and we're so glad that you came on to chat with us about kids and money. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have come and join you guys. We'll have to do it again.
Yes, love
definitely.
that. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend that you're comfortable having money talks with. And if you don't mind, we'd love if you could rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're in need of my support as a financial coach, message me on Instagram. I'd love to help in any way that I can. Until next time.